We have a big crowd, and it's very exciting. And we're going to start with Liev Schreiber is coming up. Are they? Ah, there he is. Come on down. LBJ. Jesse Williams. Yaya Alafia. Congratulations. Terrence Howard, please. James Marsden. JFK. Minka Kelly. His lovely wife, Jackie O. Danny Strong, the screenwriter. David Oyelowo. I always get that wrong. David Oyelowo. Oyelowo. Oprah Winfrey. Welcome. You're around here. The fabulous Lee Daniels, the director. Next, Forrest Whitaker. The Butler. Cuba Gooding Jr. And I have to say, the best dressed of the day, Lenny Kravitz. Come on down. Oh, is she? Okay, Lee, how did you get involved with this project, and how did it come to you?
It came to me from the late Laura Ziskind, who, if any of you don't know, produced Pretty Woman and Spider-Man, the Spider-Man franchise, and she had optioned it for Sony from an article based on a Washington Post piece that Will Haygood wrote about a butler, and Danny Strong wrote an incredible script that we developed, and it was magic from the moment I read it.
It was magic. It is magic.
Thank you.
Forrest, could you tell us how you became the butler? What did you see in this man? Why did he attract you? How did you change yourself physically to step into his shoes?
But I thought it was amazing story. The story of Eugene Allen, and was the original inspiration. I think that they wrote this amazing script from, and this character serving these presidents in the White House, these 8 presidents in the White House, and it allowed me the opportunity to deal with my family, the love of my family, my wife, my son, our relationship, and also at the same time my own stance on the world and how I wanted to be able to live, and everyone deserved the quality of a good life, and it moved into the civil rights movement because of that, trying to strive for that. So what I did was I started to do research on the period and the time. I started looking at that as a whole so that I could make that an organic part of myself, so the experiences of the day would be inside of me. And I started to work with a Butler coach to start to learn about how to serve, and the concept and the way of thinking that they would have. And I started working on the accent, the dialect, to find the right speech, which I spoke to Lee about a lot, to try to find what was the right voice for this person and how to combine it with the original person. And then the physicality of the aging, which I thought was a big part of the sort of dramaturgy, or the part of like all the history and the moments in the script, to get to work with all these people and try to put them inside of myself so that I would be able to age in a way that would feel organic. I mean, I think the thing that helped me, the thing that made it work was like these artists were so talented. So there was really a great fortunate thing to get to walk on a set and like be working with extraordinary actors in every phase of the piece, whether it was with these guys with Cuba and Lenny and the humor and the depth of it, or all these presidents would live. And everyone was so powerful, and of course the family with with Oprah and with David. It was this thing of intimacy that we were trying to find so that we would be able to convey our desire, our deep desire to stay together as a whole family and to be one. And it was that family we were trying to do, and my son was dealing with trying to make the family of the United States, to bring them together in a healing way too at the same time. And all these people were bringing it together to make it happen for me. It was an extraordinary, unbelievable experience. I feel so fortunate to get to work with all these people and to work under Lee because of it. Yeah.
Thanks. Why don't we step back to Danny and talk about that character? And it's inspired by a true story, but what did you do in terms of research and digging out more and digging deeper?
Sure. Well, it's inspired by Eugene Allen, and I interviewed Eugene Allen. It was an amazing experience, and I also interviewed many other members of the White House staff. I did about 25 interviews in total. I read memoirs of people that worked at the White House, and this sort of composite character started to bubble up. I was getting so many amazing stories from so many different people that I felt like it would be a disservice not to try and use as much of this as possible in creating this family. And it felt that the more people's stories I could use, the more of a universal truth would be created for this experience. And I like to say that the film's not inspired by a true story, it's inspired by many true stories.
What made you want to get involved, Oprah?
Lee,
He was relentless, right?
he was, and I was telling him, Lee, I got a network thing going on, and he wouldn't listen to me, but I'm glad I said yes. I finally said yes because the story itself, he'd been talking to me about the story and Gloria for quite some time. I'm a student of my own history, of African American history, and I believe that when you know who you are, you have an ability to move forward with the strength not just of yourself, but the strength of your entire ancestry. So the ability to tell that story of the Butler in an entertaining way that would offer an opportunity for the rest of the world to experience a part of our history that made our nation who and what we are, and to demonstrate the love story of African American family in a way that tenderness is exposed to the world so that people can see that we are all more alike than different, that when you see the two of us at the bus station sending our son off to college, it's how every parent, regardless of race, regardless of economic background, feels when you have to let go of your son. When you see us sitting at the breakfast table in the morning, I wanted to communicate that sense of love and connection and tenderness, and also to allow the spirit and integrity of all of the African American women, colored Negro at the time, who stood by their men and held the families together with their grit and their determination and allowed their own dreams to be repressed, you know? I thought a lot about what it means to be a woman in the 50s and 60s. A woman like Gloria, or a woman like myself, or any of the other women in this room. All of us got a little fire inside. Gloria had a little fire inside of herself. What it's like to be the kind of woman who, you have that fire, but what do you do with it? You just can't watch Edge of Night all day long and make a tuna fish sandwich and drink a beer, so that's why you tiptoe with the next door neighbor, Terrence, a little bit.
Well, when he looks like that, too, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, he didn't quite look like that. Terrence was such a brilliant actor that he came to set the first day and he had removed the cap from his tooth. And so he has this big gaping hole. And I went, okay.
I said, kiss her. I said, ask her for a kiss with your tooth missing. That'll show who Gloria really is.
That's direction.
Yes. But the opportunity to show and to show who the women of that era, because Gloria for me is not just herself, but a composite of women of that era who, you know, sacrificed, who also were the stabilizing force in the family, because the Butler couldn't have been who he was. It still had a family had it not been for her.
The enabler, too.
Yes. So I loved all of that about the script.
It's terrific. Mariah, can you tell us what brought you for a relatively smaller but important role?
Well, first of all, anything with this group of incredibly just beyond fascinatingly talented people. For me to have the chance to even be sitting here is like, okay, is reality? Is this happening? So I'm so grateful to Mr. Lee Daniels for thinking of me for the, I won't call it small, I'll call it an important part because it's integral to the story. You know, Forrest, your character did have to be born at some point. But honestly, I mean, Lee has been so passionate about this particular project, and it doesn't, I mean, it really takes a lot. I don't mean to speak for you, Lee, but it really does. As a friend, I just need to say that I feel like Lee had so many opportunities thrown at him after doing the incredible, I don't want to talk about Precious too much, but we can't help it, sitting here, that it was such a phenomenon and so massive, and so many opportunities thrown his way. And it took him a while to I think, decide on what to do, and I'm just so glad when I was able to see. Now, mind you, for me to see this movie, I was watching on the computer the other night, and because this is like Fort Knox, honey, for me. Oprah can get anything, but I had to go through Fort Knox to see this movie, and to finally watch it, knowing what Lee's been going through, and just even putting this movie together. I feel like your opus, and I just feel like it's just such an incredible thing to be able to say I've been a part of it. And this, my goodness, like, everybody sitting here? Forget it. I almost kidnapped Lenny. I don't know what was going on.